In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the performance for the Nintendo Switch edition of Mortal Kombat 1. Specifically, we're going to be looking at the most up-to-date version, which is version 1.21, which just came out on the 28th, I believe it was, the 28th of August, so that would be about a week ago. So I guess let's start it off with a look at the performance of the one thing that is probably the most important thing when it comes to fighting games, and that of course is the gameplay, because who wants to bother with a fighting game that performs like trash? So let's get into it. First off, we're going to be looking at everything from how long it takes to load from the main menu into the character select screen, how that screen performs, and in-match gameplay we're going to be looking at as well. And as you can see, as it was in the previous patches, loading from the main menu into the character select menu does still take some time, and after you highlight a character, and what I mean by highlight is you're hovering on the character that you're going to pick, but you don't actually pick them yet. After you've highlighted your character, it takes about usually 4 to 5 seconds for them to actually load, that is for them to appear on screen. This seems to be consistent across the board for all the characters. I tried it with multiple characters, and another thing to also keep in mind is that this menu actually performs a lot better than it used to in the earlier patches, where it used to drop into the low 10s repeatedly while you were in this screen. In the most recent patches, it actually stays close to the intended 30 frames per second for the majority of the time, with the occasional drop here and there. Okay, now that we've got our characters chosen, let's go to the cameo screen, and it's much the same thing. About 4 to 5 seconds to load a cameo, and now let's get into loading a match. This is casual mode once again, and I'll speed this up for the sake of brevity, but matches in casual mode as of patch 1.21 still take between 15 and 21 seconds to load. Most of you watching already know this, but if you're new and you're wondering why it takes so long, just know that back before patch 1.09, casual matches actually took up to 40 seconds and more to load. Most of you watching already know this, so just be aware that that's what we were having to deal with back then. I don't foresee the loading times in casual mode getting any better than they are right now, because for example, Mortal Kombat 11 on the Switch, casual matches in that game actually take longer to load than they do in Mortal Kombat 1. There has also been an ongoing issue with casual mode where sometimes matches will disconnect if you pick your characters and stages too quickly before you let them load. That seems to have been mostly fixed in the recent patches, but they might still disconnect sometimes. Personally, it's been happening a lot less to me. Now, this is a match that I played versus the computer, Li Mei versus Liu Kang. I'm the Li Mei, and it was just to show what the gameplay plays like now. In the early patches, the game used to drop frames consistently during the match into the low 20s and into the teens, and it just performed very badly back then, even offline. Now you compare that to this and you can see the change that the game has undergone. So in patch 1.21, the game still targets 60 frames per second, and it actually manages to stay close to 60 the majority of the time. You can also see whenever I call Movado, it drops slightly, but it's not really noticeable. But here Liu Kang breaks my combo, and what happens when you break a combo is the opponent's cameo comes out, and if you have your own cameo out at the same time, so like 2 cameos being on screen at once, that is going to automatically cut the frame rate down to 30 frames per second for the duration that both cameos are on screen. Some cameo moves can cut the frame rate more than others. So for example, here we have Frost. I'm going to do Frost's freeze move where she comes out and freezes the opponent, and as you can see, while that move is active, it noticeably slows down the game, but it quickly goes back up to around 60 frames per second. But what about moves that stay on screen longer, like Frost's new move, which creates an ice wall and gives you a corner pretty much anywhere that you are for a few seconds? Well, yeah, I'm sure you guessed it, it stays somewhere around the mid-50s while the ice wall is active. This is not an issue exclusive to the Switch, obviously, but it is a lot more noticeable on the Switch. I was playing on Steam a few days ago and I noticed with Liu Kang, whenever I would have Serena's meter drain active during a combo, it felt noticeably slower, but it's nowhere as obvious as it is on the Switch. So as far as gameplay performance goes, that's really the worst of it, is the cameos causing the frames to drop while the cameos are active, and if 2 cameos are on screen at once, the game automatically drops to 30 frames per second, and I hope they get that fixed eventually. For the majority of the time though, the game does stay around 60 frames per second, sometimes going a little bit over 60, but not usually. If this were a one-on-one only game though, with no assists, then this game would perform perfectly, I would think. Kombat League matches are exactly the same, obviously, with the exception that they take twice as long to load. Kombat League also still has the dialogue intros, while casual mode does not. They were removed back in patch 1.09. That's also why casual matches load a lot faster than Kombat League. Fatal blows and fatalities still target 30 frames, as do all cutscenes in this game. Let's check out Kitana's fatal blow and see how it performs. The Final Towers cutscene still performs very well. If you're new and not aware, this used to not be the case. It wasn't really until the last 4 patches or so where they got this cutscene to run pretty much flawlessly. In the first few updates, this cutscene ran like a horse with 1 leg. Although I will say that not all is good news here. If you played Towers mode to completion in this current update, then you would have noticed that the ending credits scene has the stuttering problem again, like it did in the first few patches. I don't know how a bug like this even exists, but okay. So that's gonna be it for this video. I'm gonna have some more videos up in the coming days, and as you all know, the Chaos Reigns pack is gonna be released on the 24th of this month, so be prepared for that. Hopefully this update does not blow up the Nintendo Switch, because that is gonna be a massive update on top of what's already a game that's over 40 gigabytes on the Nintendo Switch. It's the largest game I have on this console, but yeah, hit the like button, subscribe, and I am gonna keep bringing you more combo videos, online matches, and video game news on Switch Played. Done.